Come on, man. Come on, man. Like, Napheesa, you gotta stop. Napheesa, you gotta stop. Y'all gotta stop lying. Y'all have got to stop lying. I cannot believe the blasphemy Napheesa Collier spewed at the podium just now for Unrivaled, talking about all of us players are united and we're all on the same page. No, the hell y'all not.
The sound you're hearing isn't frustration. It's the sound of trust breaking. When someone this connected to the WNBA community opens with repeating, "You gotta stop lying," 4 times in under 10 seconds, you know something major just cracked. And what cracked is this perfectly polished story that WNBA players are all on the same page as they head into potentially the biggest labor fight in league history.
This is gonna be quick, but this is nonsense, man. And it's all cap. I keep telling y'all, man, these people are lying. These people are lying, bro. I'm starting to lean more toward the owners at this point, bro. It's too much. It's too much, bro. Too much, mama. Too much. Let's get into what she had to say.
For long-term stability of Unrivaled, how do you look at TV ratings as you guys enter year 2?
I think ratings are always important, as you know, TV deals are always your biggest source of income. And so, you know, making the fan experience really great and making sure we have a great product is always number one.
The voice belongs to keep that same energy, and he's responding to what Napheesa Collier said at an Unrivaled press event on January 6th. Collier, who started Unrivaled alongside Breanna Stewart, stepped up to those microphones and told everyone that WNBA players are completely aligned on CBA talks. She claimed the unity has been incredible, that everybody's on board with what they want and how far they'll go to get it. But here's where it gets messy. That statement completely conflicts with what several WNBA players have been saying out loud in the weeks before that press event. And we're not talking about bench players or retired voices. We're talking about Caitlin Clark, the same player who drove WNBA viewership through the roof by 70%. We're talking about Deja Kelly, someone fighting just to stay on a roster who straight up said she's terrified of a lockout. We're talking about Australian players whose WNBA paychecks matter because their home league pays pocket change compared to what American stars earn.
I think it's been amazing. Just the player buy-in, the player participation, the unity in that we all feel like we're in lockstep with what we want, what we're willing to do to get there. It's been amazing. I was not part of the last CBA, so I don't know what it is in comparison, but this has been awesome. And I think naturally, I don't think there's fatigue. Like, obviously there's frustrations in that both sides are trying to get what they want, but I think we still have that fire within us, and that we're willing to do what it takes, and we're going to do whatever it takes to get what we think we deserve. And so that fire keeps burning through that. And, you know, our PA works really, really hard. The players have all been so engaged that I think it's really easy to stay in that space as well.
Ratings drive everything because TV contracts create the cash that keeps the lights on. Unrivaled gets this completely. That's why when Collier got asked about long-term stability, her first move was talking about how TV deals are your biggest moneymaker. She shifted gears quickly to fan experience and camera work, but that initial truth already escaped. No ratings means no cash. No cash means no league left to fight over. Here's why this moment matters so much. Collier is standing at an Unrivaled press event, hyping up a league she actually owns, while also being a major voice in WNBA contract talks. Unrivaled wins when the WNBA struggles. If the WNBA season gets pushed back or scrapped because of a lockout, Unrivaled becomes the only game in town for elite women's basketball. That's not theory, that's just how markets work. Yet Collier is out here speaking for WNBA player solidarity. The conflict is right there in the open, but nobody in that room pressed her on it. Nobody asked the obvious question about how she can claim unity when Caitlin Clark said something totally different just 2 weeks earlier.
She said they are in lockstep with what they want on the CBA negotiations. Who you think you talking to? I heard what Caitlin Clark had to say. She said, y'all need to compromise and get a deal done. Not only do y'all need to compromise, y'all need to make sure that the season for 2026 in the WNBA happens. Y'all need to play in games. That does not sound like y'all in lockstep. Kelsey Plum didn't sound like she was in lockstep with what Caitlin Clark had to say. Okay, TV, you might be lying. No, I ain't lying because I got the...
Pay attention to how she phrases things. I think it's been amazing, not It is amazing. That's leaving room for doubt. Then she throws in, I wasn't part of the last CBA, so I don't have anything to compare it to. Translation, I have zero idea what normal labor unity actually looks like. But hey, this feels pretty good to me. Then comes the key moment. We're willing to do what it takes, and we're gonna do whatever it takes to get what we think we deserve. Catch that? Not what we deserve, but what we think we deserve. That language creates space. It's how someone talks when they know not everybody agrees on what's fair or what prices are worth paying. The question was about exhaustion and unity after more than a year of negotiation. Collier's response focused on passion and commitment from leadership and veteran players. What she completely sidestepped is whether newer players, underpaid players, and players without shoe deals share that same passion. Because the proof suggests they absolutely don't.
Clark is saying.
That's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave as well, is you want the product on the floor. And at the end of the day, that's how you make the money, that's how you're marketable, that's what the fans get excited about, that's what the fans want to show up for. So, you know, it's business and it's a negotiation, and there has to be compromise on both sides. And, you know, we're starting to get down to the wire of it, and it's become really important. And, you know, obviously I want to help in any way I can, and I've tried to educate myself the best I can. Obviously I can't speak to every single member. It's pretty complicated.
I can't speak for every single member, but hey, it's getting down to the wire. We need to play some goddamn games in 2026 in the WNBA. That's what Caitlin Clark is saying. That is not what Kelsey Plum said. That is not what you just said, Napheesa Collier. So how are y'all in lockstep about?
The footage exists. It's right there. Caitlin Clark's exact words from Team USA training camp in early January 2025. She didn't talk about doing whatever it takes. She talked about finding middle ground. She talked about both sides needing to bend. She talked about making sure the 2025 season actually happens, because that's what our fans built, and that's what all of you want too. Clark's approach was practical and focused on playing. Get games on the schedule. Make a deal work. Don't throw away the 2025 season for bargaining power. That's nowhere near aligned with Collier's message about going to any lengths. These are completely opposite approaches. Clark kept going. That's how you create the money. That's how you build your brand. That's what gets fans excited. That's what makes fans want to show up. She's laying out how playing actual games builds the value that justifies bigger paychecks. No games equals no value building. No value building equals weaker position down the road, even if you win some battles now. Then she delivered the crucial part. It's business and negotiation, and there's going to need to be give and take from both sides. We're getting close to crunch time, and the season really matters. That's not union battle cry language. That's someone who knows the WNBA's massive 2024 growth only counts if it keeps rolling in 2025 and beyond. A shutdown kills that momentum dead.
Y'all gotta stop lying. Stop. Furthermore, let's continue to the players that don't have a Caitlin Clark name, that don't have a Kelsey Plum name, that don't have a Napheesa Collier name. What did Deja Kelly have to say in this article? However, other groups may be even more impacted by a new CBA and the looming threat of a strike than the W Stars. More stars have lucrative endorsement deals and high salaries in unrivaled overseas leagues or Project B once it kicks off in 2026. Players who are still fighting to secure a role in the W.
This completely destroys the unified front story. Deja Kelly represents most WNBA players, not the exceptions. She's not pulling down max money. She doesn't have Nike or Gatorade writing her checks. She doesn't own pieces of Unrivaled. She's scrapping to earn a roster spot and prove she belongs in regular rotations. The reporting quotes Kelly word for word. For someone like me, who wants to cement myself in the league and have steady work, I don't want a lockout. I'm terrified. That's not, we'll go to any lengths. That's, please don't gamble my future for your negotiating strategy. Kelly's fear makes complete sense. A lockout doesn't damage Napheesa Collier or Breanna Stewart. They'll suit up for Unrivaled, cash their ownership checks, keep their endorsement profiles high, and return to the WNBA whenever things restart. But for Deja Kelly, a lockout means 0 WNBA games to prove her worth. 0 chances to make a team, 0 league income, 0 health coverage, 0 retirement money. The reporting breaks down the real division. More established stars have major endorsement money, and big, unrivaled salaries, overseas contracts, or Project B deals coming. While players still trying to lock down WNBA roles usually have none of that. This is the core split that Collier's Unity talk completely ignored. Kelly's future might depend on roster expansion, which only happens if the new agreement changes how many players teams can keep. But bigger rosters cost owners real money. If the players' union takes such a hard line that it pisses off owners, roster expansion becomes way less likely. Kelly's needs and Collier's needs don't match up, even though they're supposedly united.
We don't have that. A lockout or a strike would delay their next opportunity to make a WNBA roster, and their careers could depend on continued league and roster expansion. The latter can only happen if the new CBA changes the number of players a team can carry. Deja Kelly is one of those players. She addressed the issue when she appeared on Good Follow. Here it says, for a player like me, this is a quote from Deja Kelly, a player, for a player like me who is aspiring to be stamped in the league and have a consistent job. I don't want a lockout. I'm scared. Now you telling me.
The Australian players make this divide even more obvious. Players like Jade Melbourne, Stephanie Talbot, and Adelana Smith represent international talent that relies on WNBA money because their home leagues pay almost nothing. The Australian WNBL pays between $15,000 and $35,000 per season. WNBA rookie minimum is $64,000. Veteran minimum is $75,000. A lockout means these players lose their main paycheck. They can't lean on Unrivaled because it only has 30 spots total and focuses on American stars. They can't lean on Project B because it doesn't start until November. They can't lean on endorsements because international players rarely land big American contracts. So when Collier says players are united and ready to do whatever it takes, she's really speaking for one specific group. American stars with multiple money sources and ownership pieces in competing leagues. She's not speaking for international players. She's not speaking for bubble roster players. She's not speaking for first and second year players trying to prove themselves. The fact that she claims to represent all of them is what set off the reaction we heard at the beginning. It's not just wrong, it's making players whose careers are actually in danger feel invisible.
Coincides with what Deja Kelly is saying? Does that coincide with the Australian players that play in the WNBA where I showed the article with what they're saying? No, it doesn't. It doesn't coincide with what they're saying. It doesn't go with what Caitlin Clark is saying. You guys need to stop acting like everybody's on the same page. Y'all are out for yourself. You're out for yourself. I'd rather y'all just come out and say that. Stop playing games. Stop lying. We see what's going on. Listen. Do what y'all got to do behind the scenes. Get a deal done. That's it. Stop trying to use the media to push y'all points and all this stuff. Get a deal done. Y'all playing games right now, and majority of y'all are compromised.
The conflicts of interest make this whole situation even messier. Napheesa Collier and Breanna Stewart created Unrivaled together. Kelsey Plum owns equity in Unrivaled. These aren't just players joining an off-season league. They're business owners with money tied up in something that directly competes with the WNBA for eyeballs, sponsor dollars, and eventually talent. Unrivaled pays way more than typical WNBA off-season money. Word is Unrivaled salaries run from $100,000 to $250,000 for 10 weeks of work. Stack that against overseas pay, which usually runs $50,000 to $500,000 depending on the league and star power. Unrivaled matches overseas money, but without the travel headaches. Here's where it gets really interesting. If the WNBA season gets delayed or canceled because of a lockout, Unrivaled's worth shoots through the roof. Suddenly, it's not the off-season option, it's the main event. Corporate money that was going to WNBA teams and broadcasts gets redirected to Unrivaled. Fans wanting to watch women's basketball have nowhere else to turn. Media attention that would cover WNBA camps and preseason instead lands on Unrivaled. Collier and Stewart make money when the WNBA has problems. That doesn't mean they're actively trying to wreck WNBA talks, but it does mean their financial interests aren't purely tied to the league's success. When Collier says players are ready to do whatever it takes, is she talking as a WNBA player or as an Unrivaled co-owner? Because those positions want different things.
Breanna Stewart, y'all all, you and Breanna Stewart, co-founders in Unrivaled. Kelsey Plum got equity in Unrivaled. Freaking Nneka Ogwumike is the president of the WNBPA, and she just signed with a competitor in Project B. It's a bunch of nonsense going on, man. Y'all need to stop playing games and get a deal done, and stop lying, saying y'all are lockstep. No, y'all not. Caitlin Clark is not lockstep with y'all. Deja Kelly is not lockstep with y'all. The Australian players that I showed, Jade Melbourne, they're not lockstep with y'all. Stop it. Stop lying. This Keep the Vision. Get in them comments. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel.
Then you've got Nneka Ogwumike, who just joined Project B while running the WNBA Players Association. Project B has Napheesa Collier and Breanna Stewart as investors and launches November 2025, running through April. That schedule goes head-to-head with the WNBA season, which typically runs May through October. Project B isn't trying to complement the WNBA like Unrivaled does. It's an 8-up rival offering bigger salaries, better conditions, and more player-friendly deals. The league specifically went after Caitlin Clark with a reported $5 million offer for one season. Ogwumike's choice to sign with Project B while leading WNBA labor talks sends a crystal-clear signal. The union leadership is planning for a world where the WNBA isn't the only game in town. It makes sense for individual career planning, but it weakens the collective bargaining strategy. Why would owners agree to massive salary bumps and revenue sharing if their biggest stars are already planning exits to a competitor? The conflicts keep piling up. Union president joins rival league. Union negotiators own rival league. Union representatives claim solidarity while players publicly disagree with them. This isn't unity. This is complete disorder, dressed up as teamwork. Here's what makes this timing so critical. The WNBA just wrapped its best season ever. Average crowds jumped 22% to 9,497 per game. TV numbers exploded 170%, driven mostly by Caitlin Clark's 55 games, which pulled in 2.4 million viewers each. The league added Golden State as the 13th team for 2025. Corporate partnerships grew 40%. This is exactly when labor and ownership should find middle ground. Money is flowing in. Fan excitement is off the charts. Media coverage is the best it's ever been. The league has real momentum for the first time in 28 years. A work stoppage right now would be absolutely devastating. But instead of riding this wave, the Players Association is drawing lines in the sand. They opted out of the current deal in October 2024, starting negotiations that have now dragged on for over a year. The existing agreement doesn't end until October 2025, but the opt-out created instant uncertainty that's already messing with league operations. Teams don't know what salary caps will look like for 2025. They don't know roster limits. They don't know revenue splits. That uncertainty makes it almost impossible to plan expansion, upgrade facilities, or lock in long-term sponsorship agreements. The Players Association created this uncertainty on purpose as a negotiating move, but uncertainty costs everybody, not just owners. So let's break down what the Players Association actually wants, because this background is essential for understanding why Collier's unity claim is so misleading. The players want 50% revenue sharing, up from the current 9%. They want higher minimum salaries, bigger rosters, better travel setups, and guaranteed contracts. These demands aren't crazy by themselves. 50% revenue sharing is normal in the NBA and NFL. WNBA players definitely deserve better than middle seats on regular flights. Roster expansion would create more jobs and better competition. But here's the problem. The WNBA has never made money as a league. Reports say the league lost $40 million in 2023. Individual teams lose money every year, getting subsidized by their NBA parent companies. The massive 2024 growth helped the money situation a lot, but one strong year doesn't wipe out decades of red ink. Owners want to pay players more, but they want to see consistent revenue growth first. They're offering to raise the revenue sharing percentage slowly, tied to hitting specific money targets. They're offering higher minimum pay, but want to keep rosters the same size to control costs. They'll improve travel, but want players to recognize the financial reality. That's where things stand. Players want big, immediate jumps, based on 2024 success. Owners want gradual increases tied to sustained growth. Both sides make sense. Both have real This is exactly when compromise should work. But compromise means admitting that not all players have the same stakes. Caitlin Clark can afford to be realistic, because she'll earn $30 million in endorsements, whether the WNBA season happens or not. Deja Kelly can't afford to be realistic, because she needs WNBA games to build her career. Collier claiming they're unified erases that difference and makes deals harder to reach. The unity story also ignores the age gap inside the Players Association. Veterans who've been around 10+ years remember when WNBA salaries were even worse, when there was zero revenue sharing, when players needed second jobs in the offseason. They're ready to fight for major changes because they've waited forever. But younger players who joined in the last 3 years see things differently. They've only experienced the WNBA during its growth period. They watch momentum building and don't want to kill it with a work stoppage. They're more open to steady improvements if it keeps the upward trend going. Clark's comments reflect that younger player mindset. She's been in the league 1 season. She watched crowds and ratings explode. She saw sponsors lining up. She felt the energy of packed arenas. She doesn't want that momentum interrupted. That's not being anti-union. That's being smart about what a lockout would cost in lost growth chances. Collier's comments reflect the veteran player viewpoint. She's been in the league since She's watched the league fight for attention and she's played in empty buildings. She's dealt with terrible travel. She wants structural changes now, not slow improvements over years. That's not unreasonable. That's being exhausted from waiting. Both viewpoints make sense, but they're definitely not the same.